What's up YouTubers? Today I'm just walking on a nice cobbled road in Bradford, Isle Street. Now I'm heading towards 4-lane ends to meet Mark, and this video is in relation to a tram crash that happened in December 1889.
So here we are at 4-lane ends, quite a well-known junction in Bradford. You've got Thornton Road, which goes from the city centre all the way up to Denholm. Behind me, you've got Cemetery Road, and on this side, you've got Allerton Road. So this is the point where the three thoroughfares meet. And I'm going to take you back to the evening of Wednesday, the 4th of December, 1889. A tram left the city centre outside the Mechanics Institute at around 6:30 that evening, and it was full of passengers. Now just behind me is Girlington, and that's where the majority of the passengers alighted. And there was about 18 or 19 passengers still on the tram. Accounts vary and differ. So the tram came up Thornton Road, turned the corner, and it made its way up Allerton Road. So I've now brought you a little further up Allerton Road, and we're at a point where there was farmland up here, and I do believe that this bit of land, which is now occupied by lovely big houses, that was once known as 𝗩𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 farm back in the day. And if you just pan the camera back over there, the building which you can see at the side of the mini roundabout, that was the former Reservoir Hotel, which was also a pub. And just a little bit closer to us on this side of the road, you can make out the junction of Pearson Lane. So we'll now pick up the story. So tram number 16 had made its way up Allerton Road, pulling car number 21. It had reached the top of this hill part here, and it was preparing to travel along this fairly level stretch of Allerton Road. But it was at this point, at the very top of this hill, where the driver felt something snap. At first he thought it was part of the engine, but it was actually the coupling that connected the car to the tram. The car started to roll backwards down Allerton Road. The driver called to the conductor in the car to apply the brakes. One of the passengers in car 21 was a Mr. Benjamin Cooper Lund, and he gave an account of what was happening to the Bradford Daily Telegraph. He said, "I was riding on the top of the car with my son Tom, and all went right as far as Sam Craven's farm. When we got about there, I heard the car coupling snap. There was a check, and then the car began moving down the hill. I said to my fellow passengers, 'Now, let's all be quiet and get down gently without making a rush,' but they all leapt over the seats and rushed to the doorway. I told my son Tom to go down gently and not get excited, but instead of that, he jumped to the other side of the car, and getting down the steps helped the conductor to apply the brakes. I was making my way down the steps when two of the passengers jumped over me and went sprawling into the road. Both of them were injured, I believe. I kept hold of the handrail, and as the car was ascending the slight incline near West Royd, I jumped off with my face in the direction the car was going. With the brakes of the car not working, the conductor actually had hopes that this junction here behind me, where Allerton Road meets Squire Lane and West Park Road, which back then used to be known as Snake Hill Lane. I wonder if any of the viewers know the origins of that original name, but anyway, carrying on with the story. He'd hoped that this junction would have slowed and stopped the car, but it didn't. It carried on careering down Allerton Road in the direction of 4-lane ends. My son stuck to the brake with the guard, and I ran on after the car, asking everybody I met if they'd seen Tom. At last I heard a crash, and I then stopped, feeling sure that everyone in the car would have been killed. When I got to the bottom of 4-lane ends afterwards, I found the lamppost broken off about a yard from the base, and the gas was flying up from it in a big round flame. The car had fallen sideways, smashed to smithereens. My foremost anxiety was about my son Tom, as perhaps was only natural. I went into the public house, the Craven Heifer, and the first thing I saw was my son being washed by a woman. And right glad we were to see each other, I can tell you. So on its descent down Allerton Road, the tram car arrived here at Four Lane Ends. And I'm going to have to show you this archive picture to give you some perspective of what actually happened. This is an old picture of this very scene. You can see that the shops that are in this archive picture, they were actually only quite recently demolished and pulled down. But by and large, the streetscape is still pretty much the same. You can see here on the picture how the tram tracks turn and go down Thornton Road. So that is quite a sharp junction. And unbelievably, Four Lane Ends used to have a gas lamp in the middle of it, as you can see there in that picture. But what happened was the car came down, and when the wheels struck that curve in the tram tracks, the car went over and it went off in the direction of the top of Cemetery Road, and it came to rest at the side of this building, which was once the 𝗩𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗜𝗍 pub. We have here a contemporary drawing of the accident scene from the Bradford Daily Telegraph, and this is the junction of Cemetery Road. Allerton Road is up there, and that's Thornton Road. Car number 21 in a wrecked condition. You can see a policeman there keeping onlookers at bay, and you can see here the broken gas lamp that Benjamin, the passenger, referred to. There was around 10 passengers still within the wreck, and 9 of them were retrieved from the wreckage. Some were slightly injured, some had fairly serious injuries, and those who were seriously hurt, they were transported by horse ambulance to the infirmary. However, there was one fatality, and that was a chap called Fred Greenwood, and he was found in the wreckage with broken legs, but he was in a very, very bad way. He was transported to the infirmary, but sadly he died from his injuries. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Undercliffe Cemetery and we're going to visit his grave.
So we've just arrived at the Undercliffe Cemetery in Bradford. Like I always say, most of the roads point to this cemetery, full of history and heritage.
The following morning, after the crash, it was about 6:30 a.m. and the wreckage was moved from Four Lane Ends. And there was an inspection to find out, what was the actual cause of the accident. They looked at the wreckage of the car, and they actually looked at the tram, which was a new tram, and it was in good working condition. There's a coupling which was at the back of the car and also at the back of the tram. They were put together, and there'd be like a pin which would hold both components together. There was no damage to any parts of that coupling system, and the pin was actually found to be still in position on the actual tram. One theory that was put forward, the incline going up Allerton Road, it could have been bumpy for whatever reason, which caused the pin in the coupling to raise up, and then the car became detached. But there's never ever been any conclusive evidence or explanation put forward for the accident, which was in itself a tragedy. So as previously mentioned, there was one fatality in the accident, and that was a young man by the name of Fred Greenwood Smith. And this magnificent monument here marks his final resting place. And there he is, in loving memory of Fred Greenwood Smith, who lost his life in the tramway accident at Four Lane Ends, Girlington, December the 4th, 1889, aged 29 years. A young man with so much to look forward to, again, cut off in his prime in an accident. But let's remember him today. Rest in peace, Fred.